Welcome to the show that explores the methods and strategies on rocking the financial side of your music business. With over 40 years combined experience, here are your hosts, Chris Webb and Dave Tampkin.
Welcome to Musicians Tip Jar, where we talk about musicians and money, where we strive to find our fit helping you in your life's pursuit and hope to help you slip into it a little easier. I'm Chris Webb, joined by my co-host, who just slipped into something a little more comfortable, Dave Tampkin.
Our last episode for the season, Chris. I slipped out of my pants. No pants for this episode. It's all party.
Going full
waist
remote.
Down.
Today we sit down with Unicorn Sync Agency owner, musician, and now author, Elaine Ryan. We discuss finding your most valuable fit in the marketplace that is the music industry, how to live a music-centered life, and how to effectively speak with an Irish accent. Today's quote comes from our guest, Elaine Ryan. She said, "As you work hard and are kind to yourself and others, you'll get somewhere that you can be proud of."
This week's nonprofit is intermusicsf.org. Intermusic SF is dedicated to sustaining and nourishing the Bay Area creative environment by offering dynamic programming and vital resources for music creators and audience members. Where they believe that everyone should have equitable access to world-class musical experiences. Musical experiences promote cultural connections, encourage community engagement, and provide pathways for a deeper commitment to civic arts for artists and audiences. Music creators and presenters face financial barriers to build accomplished careers and require professional development tools and financial services for sustainability. Please check out more at intermusicsf.org. If you find this information useful, please rate and subscribe to the podcast, and also slam that like button if you're on YouTube so we can help keep you up on the finance side of your music business.
Elaine Ryan is a musician and sync agent who has made her living in music for over 15 years. She has toured throughout Canada and the US and Europe, and has released 4 full-length albums, an EP, and numerous singles. Her songs have been featured in ads and on TV shows airing on both NBC and Amazon. She is the founder of sync license agency Unicorn Sync, where she has helped a growing network of indie artists land placements in film and television. She also co-founded Sync Music for a Change, a nonprofit initiative connecting musicians with sync opportunities while raising money for charitable and progressive causes. Elaine is a member of the Recording Academy. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with her husband, her journal, and her guitar. Most recently, she is about to release her first book, Living a Music-Centered Life, a guide to balance, fulfillment, and paying the bills. It was such a joy to hang with Elaine and discuss making the music world a better, more welcoming place for all. She even gifts us with reading a section of her book. Let's go. I think a lot of people are intimidated by sync, and I think we could use this opportunity with you to kind of because you're so personable about this process and the balance between writing and then finding place for your music in sync, but never giving up who you are. Maybe there's a story within Unicorn Sync that could inspire artists to explore sync licensing a little more seriously, maybe if they haven't before.
Yeah, I mean, so I have this one artist who I've gotten a couple small placements for, and his music is stunning. His name is Brawley, or his artist name is Brawley. His name's Jake. And he doesn't have the kind of music that you'd be like, oh, that's like syncy music, but he has really, because I think that notion of syncable music is kind of dated and false, and it's generally like happy, chirpy, happy music that would work well for selling baby food, but not much else. But his music is super emotive and slow, and it was in this movie, Winter, Spring, Summer, or Fall. And I just actually saw the full thing on the airplane a couple days ago. But it's so evocative, and there's nothing contrived about what he's doing. You know, you can tell that it's an artist project. So on the one hand, like that's really wonderful when you get to place those kind of songs. And then on the other, I have this group of girls, this trio who had also got a couple songs in that same movie, who do a whole range of types of songs. Mo Loughran is one of the people, and she writes just across a whole bunch of genres. Some of the stuff she co-writes, she does a lot of co-writing. She's in Nashville, is for artist projects that are really deeply felt. And some of them are just pop bangers, like it's the song that they play during the prom scene.
Yeah.
And those, like, I think it really depends on what comes naturally to you as to whether it's going to be authentic feeling or not.
Yeah.
People talk a lot about authenticity. That's almost become like a meaningless word, but I think it's basically like, are you personally feeling the song is whether or not it's going to be authentic. So like, I understand wanting to get a placement in something as a means of getting a sense of validation, for like, I'm a real artist. Like, people have heard my song. If that's something you really want, and your music is really like slow and ballady, and like, you definitely can get that kind of music in dramas and that kind of thing, but it is harder to do because there's a lot of really high quality music in that genre.
Yeah.
But what I would suggest is that you keep doing that, do the best that you can. And then if you also really want to like increase the chance that you might be able to get a song placed, start co-writing with other people who do more upbeat pop or do hip hop and who are already kind of in the sync lane. And if you feel like you have something to offer in terms of like your understanding of melody or song structure or lyrics, start collaborating with people and try to get in that way, because there are like a lot of reality TV shows that just need like pop hits.
Totally.
And they're full of songs. Those kind of like reality TV uses so much music. The pay isn't great, but it's a foot in the door, and it's, exciting.
Yeah, the mailbox money, right? Like, that's the real thing for a lot of people, isn't it? Where they can just keep putting their catalog up and growing the catalog, and trusting with the right people are trying to help them put it in someplace.
Yeah.
A resume builder too, I would imagine.
Totally. I feel like there's a lot of people out there kind of pushing the dream, of sync licensing. Oh, this is going to solve all your problems. You're going to like make it in sync. You're going to be making like
so much
tens
money.
of thousands, hundreds of thousands a year, and it's going to be great. And like, there's just a really big difference between somebody who is a singer-songwriter who plays guitar and sings and maybe hires a band to do an album, and somebody who's a full-time producer who like produces in a range of genres, but particularly in pop and hip hop, and who is able to produce, top line, sing, has the full suite of talents. That kind of person who's just 100% in music and like can work in the box, like can like create tracks and sing and write. That kind of person can earn a living through sync if they also happen to be willing to like go to the conferences. They've got really great taste. There's like a certain personality and skill set that is needed in order to be like full-time sync. And that most musicians that I know are not in that category. So sync has to be, it's like a supplementary thing. It's a thing that you want to, like, kind of like the Atomic Habits, you're doing your 45 minutes of creativity a day. You want to be doing your whatever, half an hour of sync admin, just reaching out to people, networking, whatever, doing that a day as just like a part of what you're doing as a musician, and then fingers crossed that something lands, Can
we take all of this and go into your book, The Living a Music-Centered Life?
Totally.
A guide of balance, fulfillment, and paying the bills.
Yes.
Look at that. Look at that.
This is I don't know, am I allowed to reveal when this interview is happening?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're in August, and so this is like the author copy that Amazon sent me. You can't, not for resale, so you can't see the full cover. So
just in case you wanted to resell it?
Well, it's like my first chance to look at it in the printed form, so I can like correct any errors that, so I'll still have to like go back and forth.
How does that feel? Let's start there.
It's pretty cool. It's like
awesome.
It's a real life book. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm stoked on it.
Are you going to do an audiobook with it?
Yes, eventually I will do an audiobook. Right now I'm just trying to get this out, and then yeah.
Will you use your own voice or hire a British actor?
Oh, good question. Maybe I should just do my own British accent, right?
Ooh, there you go.
Or Irish accent. I was born in Ireland, so I can do a decent mixed Irish accent. Yeah. But no, I'll use my own voice.
Okay, maybe at the end, if people wait around after the credits, we'll just have you read a paragraph in an Irish accent.
accent.
And we'll do that at the very, very end. So Don't
And
go
just
anywhere.
pray
People.
that nobody
Yes.
from Ireland is listening, because my accent is like some like weird mongrel mix of
We'll
different
be the
parts of
judge
Ireland.
of that. We'll be the
Okay.
judge.
Yeah, so maybe we start with talking just why did you write this book? Where did it come from? What's the source of this?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about it for I started writing it like a few years ago, and then I put it down. I'd interviewed a couple people for it, and I put it down being like, no, I'm not ready to write the book. I'm still doing the thing. I still hadn't gotten into sync licensing yet. And I was like, I still want to push my music and try really hard. But I wrote it because I felt like the books around music that I was reading or I had read were like not they were either too nuts and bolts, like too getting into the details of how to become famous and like just the nitty gritty, and or they were very Rick Rubin. That's
Yeah,
that book. I
love
loved
it.
it, but it was all very like connecting to the source and bringing
Yeah,
out your inner creative, which I love, which is
yeah,
great. And I wanted something that spoke in the tone of that like kind of honored the creativity and honored just like the right brain component of artistry and how you're doing it because you love it, and then also looked at what does it take to earn a living at the same time, and the fact that like not everybody has the capacity to move to New York or Nashville or Los Angeles to pursue fame. And a lot of people love music and want to pursue music and want to figure out like what can I do to be a musician where I am, given the life that I have. And so that's why I wrote the book.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are going to connect with that. I mean, last night or 2 nights ago, I was playing up in Aspen, and the other band that was there is some guys from the Motet. Do you know that group?
I don't.
One of the guitar players or keyboard player was talking about how he doesn't play gigs for hire, like corporate or weddings or anything, because he feels like it takes too much energy out of him to be able to go home and make and create his own
Mm-hmm.
music. And that is so important to him to have that energy.
Yeah.
But he'd rather go work a non-music job
Yeah.
and then come back and do that. And it's obviously working well for him because he's playing in a band that's actually quite successful and been around for a long time, but he still has to have a job, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but that's where he finds his happy place, is in that balance. And I think, to me, kind of what I take from what you're saying is that there needs to be a little bit of help guiding us to finding balance, because we can become so overwhelmed by the pressure,
Yes.
so scared of trying hard enough or taking some risks. So I really think your book's going to have a great place to do it. What would you say you would put the meaning of the music-centered life to be?
So I think living a music-centered life is basically where being a musician is at the core of your sense of identity. Like this guy that you were speaking about, it's clearly like he's a musician. That's who he is. I don't know what else he does for his day job, right? But that's the main component of it. And so it's trying to craft a life where you can where that is where that can be the main thing that you're focused on. And it talks about status and hierarchy and relating to other people and how they kind of like see you. And it's basically, I just want to like create a permission structure for people to be musicians and to identify as musicians. And like you were saying, like he says that the corporate gigs take too much out of them. Like I totally feel like that's why I charge a high rate, because it's like it's an energy exchange. You need to be taking in as much as you're giving out. At least you want to be taking in a bit more, hopefully, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you're playing in front of an audience that's super excited about your music, it's going to fill you up. It's going to
Yeah.
make you feel really excited. And if you're not, then the energy needs to come in the form of money, where kind of you're getting literal energy to put calories in your body.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And it's funny too, because somebody also said, like, in business, there's a saying that says, if you don't give as much energy, at least as what you're charging, then your business is going to fail. And I do think there's like both ends of that, yin
Mm-hmm.
and yang are true. It's like maybe sometimes we are out of balance one way or the other, and that's why things aren't quite working.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes for myself, the hardest part of that is recognizing when it's time to say raise your rates, or
Yeah.
recognizing when it's time to say no, even though your instinct is like, this is money, this is
Right.
money.
Yeah.
So how would you guide that as a balance?
I think that if people are saying yes to you all the time, like if you put your rate out and people are like, great, you're not charging enough. You want to be charging an amount where you're not getting all the gigs, because then you know, it is scary. And I think there's definitely like there's a sense that a lot of musicians have of like, who do I think I am, like charging this rate for something that's fun. Well, it's not that fun if no one's listening to you. There's a lot of work involved in the corporate gig thing.
Yeah.
And I think that what I love about the guy who's not doing the corporate gigs is that he's making that choice for himself. And he's not like, because there's a lot of people in our society, like when people say, hey, oh, well, what do you do? And I say like, oh, I'm a musician. And they're like, oh, so how do you make money? And I say, well, I play wedding and corporate events. And then I also do this sync licensing thing. And people really want you to be like consistent, like, oh, if you're a musician, then I want you to be doing all music. And so this guy probably has to face like, yeah, I'm in this band, I'm a musician, but I also like do accounting or whatever he does on the side. Yeah.
And he is phenomenal when he played, like there, not a single script. There's no hesitation in his mind. His confidence was oozing out of his performance. And I thought to myself, it's like part of that might be a part of this too. It's like he feels like he's doing exactly what he wants to do, and that helps him perform at his best.
Totally.
And I wonder sometimes if people, when they get burned out, or when you've been at a gig and you're like, oh, I should have charged more for this. Like,
yeah,
just realizing that it's 4 hours away, I should have been charging more for this.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that creeps into your performance. Like, why did I say yes to 4 of these this week?
Yeah.
And now you're like performing at half mast because you're so full of that anxiety of what you're doing to yourself.
Yeah, I know. The mental chatter in your head.
The last thing I wanted to say is just, first of all, how great it is to talk to you and to hear your story and just to kind of get an understanding of the way you've created your life and how it is such a shining example of how someone doesn't have to follow a roadmap as much as maybe listen to the guides and just choose to do what it feels right. This is kind of what I'm taking away from you.
Mm-hmm.
But with your book, who is it that you're hoping will find it?
So I feel like there's a couple groups. There's 3 groups. The group number 1 is 17 to 25-year-olds who are trying to figure out, what am I going to do, with my life, and should I go to music school? Should I go to college? Should I not go to any of these? That's a group that I am interested in reaching, just because I think it has a lot of good information for people who are just starting out. Then there's people who are already musicians who are, they're gigging, they're trying to do the thing. And what I hope that this book would give them is just a sense of like solidarity and community, and like you're not out there alone, and like I see you trying to do the thing, and I see that it's it's challenging, and I honor the courage and the creativity. And then the third group is people reassessing their lives, maybe in early retirement, trying to figure out what can I do? Can I still be a musician? Is there any path for me? And there is, and sync licensing and co-writing in sync licensing especially is one of those paths. And it's never too late to make music a central part of your life, I think.
So in that last one, I heard 48-year-olds with their birthdays in October.
Yeah, with dogs that have
yes,
problems with their teeth.
I'm writing that. And missing legs.
Missing legs.
Okay.
It's a really good marketing tactic.
Yeah.
This is great. And I can't wait to get my hands on a physical copy of the book too. Are we going to be able to order it on Amazon anytime soon?
So mid to late October is where I'm aiming for, but I can't quite give the exact date. I would love to give you the exact date once I have it for a link.
Yeah. We'll post that.
Whatever. But yeah, October is the goal.
Would you mind if we had you back on in October, just maybe for like a 10-minute talk about it, so we can share?
Would I mind? I would love that. I would love that.
And then would you mind just reading one paragraph in Irish accent, please?
Could I? What if I?
You can approve
read it in a Canadian accent?
I did hear a little Canadian accent in there, don't you know? And if you don't like your performance, we don't have to share it, but it'd be fun just to see what happens.
So you seriously want me to do it in Irish?
I mean, it would really be fun just to put it at the end after credits.
Can I also read a piece like in my normal voice?
Let's do that first, and then that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that first. Okay. This is from the very end. So, and then part of it is a quote that I didn't write. Anyway, maybe you've read this passage before, especially as it's been popularized recently by Brene Brown. It's a quote from Theodore Roosevelt that bears repeating. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Well-known artists, writers, and celebrities have a bias that says it's natural to become famous and make a lot of money. Even if they've had huge advantages and great luck, they often conclude that they earned their success. Usually they believe themselves wholeheartedly when they tell you that if you just had their mindset or work ethic or whatever, you'd be successful too. You rarely hear from the people who work super hard, have a positive mindset, and are doing just okay. It's easy to get lulled into the notion that if you're not succeeding in music, you're messing up. Here's an excerpt from a Wired article from 2013 that's important to consider. As of January 15th, 2013, the number of pages in the category of living people on Wikipedia is 604,000. The global population is over 7 billion. This means that the fraction of living famous people is 0.000086. Not 1%, not 0.1%, not 0.01%, but 0.0086%. If you're not famous enough to have a Wikipedia page, is it really because you don't have a positive enough mindset or strong enough work ethic? Or is it because you're a normal person doing their best to be extraordinary and probably doing a great job in a hyper-capitalist world that's warped by advertising and false expectations? You have the right to be creative and to make your music, whether or not you get to the place where you have a Wikipedia page. You deserve the connection and beauty that comes with creating, and you deserve food, shelter, community, care, and love. But the universe doesn't owe you more money or fame. You already have a lot of money compared to most people in the world. It just may feel like you don't because the people on TV, social media, and in ads look rich. There's huge inequality in the US, and it often runs along racial lines because of historical exploitation and oppression. It's extremely unfair. At the same time, if you're reading this book, you're still most likely among the wealthiest 10% of people on the planet. There are hundreds of millions of people who are just as human as us, just as real as us, and who have just as much right to live a happy and creative life as us, who pray to their God or the universe just like us, probably more than us, and who are also extremely poor, meaning they're regularly at risk of dying from poverty-related issues such as illness, violence, or malnutrition. Yes, inequality and injustice in our own country hurts. Feeling low in the status hierarchy hurts. Having a mental health issue that stems in part from being disrespected in that hierarchy hurts. And at least materially, most of us in the first world are doing well relative to many others in the world. It's a both and situation. What if we thought this way instead? The universe doesn't owe me. I owe the universe. I owe it for giving me life. I owe it to the universe to do my best to be happy and to be generous and kind to people around me. Love generates more love. I owe the world my love. What's the best way for me to keep a roof over my head and put myself in a position to generate love in the world? Everyone has a different path. There are many different paths open to us. If you grew up poorer than most people in your country, you might feel a strong desire to prioritize money and have the things you lacked as a kid. Maybe you need to do that before you can feel secure enough to be happy. Sometimes that means you make a choice, if that's available to you, to get an education and a well-paying job and do music on the side. Or maybe your soul is telling you that you need to immerse yourself in the world of music. You play wedding gigs, drive for Uber, teach lessons, and write, record, and perform your music as much as possible. You learn as much as you can about sync licensing, you form a band, you book your own tours, you build a following. Maybe it works out amazingly and you stay on that path, or maybe you transition to some other mix of making music and money. None of the options are wrong. Despite what others might project, there's no such thing as failure if you do what makes you happy and helps you give the world your best. The task is to pick what's right for you at this moment, and you don't have to get it right on the first go round. You just have to keep going. That was a bit long.
That was great.
It was a bit perfect. I'm so selfishly happy that I get to show up every week and have an opportunity to hear something like that. So even for our listeners, I'm happy for them too. But right now, selfishly, that just made my month. So
thank you, Dave. That's
thank
amazing.
you very much.
We might just end it on that one because that was such a mic drop of a passage.
I'm sorry.
for you.
I'm gonna need 2 sentences at least
in the Irish accent.
In an Irish accent
Yeah.
for the end.
I almost got
Okay.
you out of it.
Yeah.
All right, there's 2 more paragraphs before the end of this piece, so I'm going to do that in Irish accent.
All right.
Spend more time doing what brings you joy. Play as much music as you can. Challenge yourself, improve your skills, work on your craft, and do projects you find worthy. You might end up living a pretty normal life. You might end up famous. You might end up somewhere in between. But as long as you work hard and are kind to yourself and others, you'll get somewhere that you can be proud of. Thanks for being brave, passionate, and hardworking, and for blessing the world with your beautiful art. May you live a long, happy, music-centered life.
It's amazing. You're really good at that.
Yes.
I was born there. I do have a lot of relatives,
It's really excellent.
It's fantastic.
That was really enjoyable, actually.
Yeah.
I do think you should consider reading the whole thing
Yes.
that way too.
Yeah. In the audiobook.
Or
We'll do
just-
2 versions, right?
Yeah.
Right. Or like all of your quotes switch to that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like to give them like with the weight.
Yeah, totally.
Well, thank you so much for
Yes,
spending some
thank
time
you.
here with us and just sharing your story with us. I know there's a lot of people who are going to be really happy to hear what you're saying and validate how they're feeling. So thank you so much for putting it out there in the world.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's
So
great
nice to
talking
meet
to
you.
You too.
So what would you say is the intimidation factor of the sync world since you've been to all these conferences?
That you have to know how to do everything. I almost feel like that is the universal intimidation about the music industry now in general, is that you're supposed to know how to do everything. And parts of that are true. But the other part is the gatekeeper end of it, that if you don't know the right people, your music has to be so exceptional that it gets you through the door. Because there's so much music. And a lot of people are pretty good at recording. So it's intimidating to be like, is my music anything special in the sync world? I mean, you can have it be important to you, right? Be special. Special sounds like a degrading word, but to be something that's meaningful. But yet in the sync world, it's just one of a million, right? And so it's really intimidating to try to push your music in there because a lot of times you won't get that reaction that you're hoping for from them.
She seemed to break it down, though, and the way I relate to it is like booking venues. You could say how many bands are trying to get a slot in a venue any single night. And she said, treat this like you can carve out a small, consistent daily action. You're networking, you're pitching, catalog building, instead of, banking on these big wins. And just with venues, when you're planning a tour or looking to get into a venue around your town, you're taking emails and, you're sending 5 or 10 a day, 5 or 10 a day, 5 or 10 a day. Do you find that to be true too, as far as how you get to meet those gatekeepers?
I think consistency is king or queen here. Yeah, I don't think there's any other way around it. Those people that are relentlessly going to put the effort in will, like she said in her quote on the last episode, they will get the results that they're happy with because there isn't any magic formula there. It is just do it until it works. And if you want it bad enough and you feel motivated enough to keep going, you will eventually get some success out of this stuff. And then the other part of that too, which comes back to our community aspect of how important it is to network, how important it is to lean on each other. But it's also really important and very powerful to be an active co-writer. And it's because anybody that's listening that's a songwriter, you probably already know this, like you can't really grow as a songwriter in an isolated atmosphere. There's so much that you get from each other when you write songs together. But there's the other end of that too, which is you learn other styles, right? You learn not only other styles, but you also learn and get access to all the other writers' connections. All of the things that they can offer is now combined with all the things you have to offer. So there's the aspect of the creative part and there's the aspect of the business part that both benefit so hugely from connecting and co-writing.
Do you remember interviewing Daphne Willis season 1 when she said she'd have like anywhere from like 7 to 9 songwriting, like appointments almost?
Yeah.
Writing
Per
sessions?
week. Yeah.
A week, yeah.
And that is something we emphasize at the University of Colorado, Denver, that I constantly bring up because it's uncomfortable at first, especially when you haven't done it before. And it's the same reason that you're intimidated by the sync world. It's like, is what I have to offer going to be of any use to any other co-writers? Because you also should be writing with people that you really like their music,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to go pick the person that writes music that you don't like because that doesn't make sense. So,
And them as well, I'm sure. You're hanging out. You have to get along.
yes, you have to get along. It's such an intimate experience. Yeah. So there's that part of it too. And we all work differently. Co-writing is its whole thing, but it really is a critical part. And it is critical in the songwriting for sync. It's also critical for songwriting for pitching to other artists. Anybody that wants to really be a songwriter first has to have co-writing as part of their process.
Let's talk about her book. It was interesting to hear why she started it. And I felt like it was parallel and in sync with why we started this podcast.
I agree. It's funny because it's like you don't want it to be something that when we talk about allowing people to be themselves, sometimes that gets wrapped up in this idea that means that if you feel like being lazy, that you can be lazy, or that if you don't feel like doing it, don't do it, right? What is that generation that everyone says does that? I'm not going to call anybody out, but I do think that sometimes when we say you should be you should be allowed to be who you are, that's taken as if you think you're lazy, then you got it. Go be lazy. But that's not at all. And it also comes back to this idea that sometimes the way that the market wants you to find your place, the universe wants you to find your place, isn't a straight line. It isn't going to be in a way that you can predict. And the only way to get there is by following the areas in which you feel like you should be existing.
So, Living a Music-Centered Life, a guide to balance, fulfillment, and paying the bills. She said she wrote this book because she wished it already existed. One that balances artistry and real-world livelihood. And it bridges that gap between the nuts and bolts, business manuals, and abstract creative guides. And from her reading, just that last blurb of her book was already something inspiring that I can't wait to get my hands on.
Yeah, I mean, it really does serve a small niche that isn't covered by anybody else that I felt like I wanted. As soon as she started reading it, I was like, oh, I want this, And that's a really good sign. And like that you feel that way the moment she starts offering the content. And not just talking about, I mean, there's a lot of books, right? The manuals, if you will, about the manuals about how to get the gig, how to charge more, how to hustle, how to connect, how to network and get the signed gig, the signed with a label, and how all of that is these manuals that there's so many of. And sometimes they're all repeating themselves. But we're never really saying like maybe you shouldn't be putting so much emphasis on either you do that or you don't, right?
Or you
Am
make
I making
money,
sense on that?
or you make
Yeah.
money, or you don't.
Yes. Right.
So many times, you're in Europe, someone asks you what you do. You're not saying what you do for a living. You're saying, I'm a musician. And that's what she's saying here, that there's so many times when someone asks what you do. I mean, the first thing is to say what you do to make an income. But a music-centered life means defining yourself as a musician regardless of income source.
Yeah, because they can coexist.
Yeah,
And
just like
they do.
Was it your friend, or it was your friend, right? Who says he from the motet that he does not want another job, doing music in a way that he doesn't enjoy doing music. He'd rather, be an arborist or work a 9-to-5 somewhere else, so he can have all that creative juice ready to go for when it's time to play music the way he wants to express himself.
And people don't own that like he owned it. He owned it in a way that said, this is by choice. This is by design. Because he could easily get a lot of other gigs that he doesn't want to take because he doesn't want to lower the juices to where they're too low to be used when he needs them. And I do think there's so much truth to that. I did experience that slump after I went full time. For a little bit, I was like, I'm tired. Like, I don't want to go down and write. And I think that's the exchange of the energy that we were discussing. And you have to be aware of that. And sometimes burnout itself is your inner monologue or your inner spirit telling you you're overdoing one area, right? You got to cut back so that we can balance this back out.
And Elaine was saying if that gig drains you, we'll compensate that energy then monetarily. Like if you don't want to really do the gig, then you're going to have to pay me an X amount in order for me to make it worth my time and my energy.
Yeah.
And then it frees you up for taking gigs that might not pay that much. Let's say a gig that you and I are doing in September that, it's nice to get paid to get there and get back. So at least we're even, but you and I are not really talking about how much it gets paid because we get a chance to be in the same town at the same place for an evening and hang out and share some tunes.
Yeah. You have to know what you're doing it for.
Yeah.
And that, I liked how she said that you have to decide whether or not you're going to, take it for the money. And if everyone's saying yes quickly, then you're probably charging too little for your value.
And then she also discussed the guilt of having a non-music job that she says in this book, she wants to reframe that. So this is balance. It's not failure.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much there. And it's also really important. Again, it's another conversation that needs to be supported amongst the community. There is a sense of guilt for a lot of people that if they aren't full-time, then they're not a real musician, right? There is that sense of guilt, especially for that younger group. There's nobody that has ever made it straight out of, I don't know, high school or college without doing some other jobs and eventually making a choice to go full-time because of some reason. But then there's plenty of people that just tried it and don't like it, right? There's plenty of people that don't like being a full-time musician, not just because it drains their energy or they have to play shows they don't want to play, but because they don't like that lifestyle. Or that lifestyle only fits you for a certain time period of your life and you grow out of it and you're like, I'm kind of done with that, And again, the guilt might be there. But again, this music-centered life it's just about the art, right? It's just about the music. It's not about being something that is kind of defined outside of you.
Brad was talking to a drummer friend of ours and he said, what would you do if you had the opportunity to go for a month on the road? And he's like, I don't think I'd take it. I have 2 kids at home. They're doing so well in everything they do. I want to be around to see it. I want to share this part of my life with them and their life. So, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
That aspect of it,
Yep.
Who's to say he can't play drums and like Brian McRae, who doesn't have kids, but still even now will record for musicians all over the world in his studio and never have to go on the road.
Talking about who this book was for, certainly she knows what she's targeting it for. When she talked about the young musicians, she talked about working musicians who need encouragement and solidarity. She talked about older adults who are early retirees that want to now pick it up, right? There's all these different groups of people that maybe never gave themselves that chance to listen to that inner voice and do it the way that they want to do. So it's about recentering your music back into that music-centered life. And to me, that's all of us, right? Because we're all going to be losing that energy from time to time in this journey. Right now, I think for me, I'm recentering to the music. And maybe this conversation is kind of what started that, because this was a couple of weeks ago. And I realized that I'm sort of off that center, and that part of it I miss, So it's really useful to have these conversations because it's so good for us to make sure we're doing what it is that we really want to be doing with all of this.
Well, she makes it, very clear there's no one path. Success doesn't require a Wikipedia page. If you're creating, sharing, and staying kind to yourself, you're already succeeding, whether you're saying that with an English or an Irish accent.
True.
Well, Chris, this is our last episode. Chris, you excited to take some time off and go hit the road? Get to drive out to the Midwest in September? I mean, we have one last action step for the season 5.
We won't be posting any new content, full episode content, until the February or spring of 2026, which is crazy. But we will be posting a lot of new content in the short form and with little snippets of other interviews and stuff like that. So we're going to do a lot more of that than we've ever done before. This has been a really wonderful season, and we are so grateful for everyone's support and engagement and the continued growth of whatever it is that we're doing here. I'm definitely going to take some of this time in the off season to recenter myself and take Elaine's advice here on this and make sure that I'm doing all of this for the right reasons. But it has done nothing but double down on my interest in making a bigger effort to help everyone in this music industry get what they want out of doing art that they make. So thank you, Dave, for putting up with me all season and helping us improve all these technical sides of things as well.
Thanks for not being annoyed that I cut you off all the time and my horrible jokes. So
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And the opportunity to do this, because I tell you, it is something I really look forward to every week. I'll miss you, Chris.
Although we'll be playing a show together if anyone's in the Chicagoland area in the first week of September, which should be about when this comes out.
Yeah, we like to heckle each other while the other one plays their tunes, just to see how their heckle chops are up, you know?
That's right. Well, so for you guys, a little easier action step than heckling. For you guys, our last action step of the season is this. Finding where you fit is a frequent topic here on Musician's Tip Jar. This is that opportunity to continue making a clear definition of where it is that you can bring high value. If you can define that, everything changes. All it then it's taking is to target getting to that point. But today we do it from an angle where it's more about where you naturally fit and less about any monetary analysis. The action step is this. List the things that you are best at and enjoy the most. Where are the places in the industry that those skills will be a strong fit? This is a fun thing to sit and think about. If you can find a partner and do this together, it actually can really help unlock some ideas. And remember that community is the whole point of making something out of nothing in this industry. We know that your time is valuable. We appreciate you spending this time and this season here with us at Musician's Tip Jar and being a part of this community. It is our hope that you feel that sense of community here and that you'll help spread the word to make us all stronger. If you'd like to get a hold of us or Elaine Ryan, what's the best way to do that?
Check out musicianstipjar.com for tools, resources, and discounts built specifically to help keep you up on the finance side of your music business. Reach out to us anytime at musicianstipjar@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your story. If this episode resonates with you, share it with a friend, leave a review, or hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. It helps us grow the community and support more musicians like you. To learn more about Elaine Ryan and listen to some of her tunes, on Instagram, you could find her at Elaine Ryan Music. Her website is elaineryan.ca, and you can find more about her Sync Music for a Change at syncmusicforachange.com.
As always, thank you for joining us, and remember, there is already enough for everyone. You just need to know how to get it. Until next time, on behalf of Dave Tamkin and myself, Chris Webb, stay happy, healthy, and wealthy. As it's been said many times, but bears repeating, success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. This is Musician's Tip Jar.
Oh Lord, I could use somebody. I could use somebody. I could use somebody.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, business, or financial professional for individualized advice. Individual results are not guaranteed, and all discussed strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host hosts are operating on behalf of Musicians Tip Jar LLC exclusively.
Could use a little help here. Could use some help. Could use a little help here.